Can't for my wins, I need my ends. This life is real, I get it in, I get it in.
What's happening, people? Welcome to today's episode of The Flex. The sun is shining where I am anyway, down south. Hope you guys are doing good. And the big news that broke yesterday is that the Premier League is coming back. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot can happen in 3 weeks, but the provisional news for the Premier League coming back has been released. And we're looking for a restart of the 17th of June, man. With the two games that kind of couldn't get played just before the coronavirus shut down the league, with Arsenal playing Manchester City and Aston Villa playing Sheffield United. So that's going to be on the 17th, and a few days later, that'll put all the teams on the same amount of games. And then from the 19th, the weekend of the 19th to the 21st is when all of the other matches will kick in. Is it good news? Well, I think it is. I know there's going to be a lot of differing opinions of whether it should or it shouldn't come back, but you know, I think what it has shown is that all the clubs have voted. First they voted for the first phase of non-contact training, then they've now voted for the second phase of being able to have full contact training, which logically would lead you into obviously voting to return to games. So the clubs have obviously voted. I know there was a lot of kind of talk about maybe certain clubs not voting to come back, or not wanting to do that, or not wanting to, potentially return. But I think what you can see is that they've all voted for it, so it's unanimous. They've all voted for it in favour of it coming back, which I think is a good thing. I think, look, is there still risk? Of course there is. But even some players have decided to come back to training because they've had reassurances from the right people. A lot of their questions have been answered, which you can't blame them. You know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, wasn't the same as it is now. And that's the thing that I've really been focusing on with this whole pandemic. The fact that it's ever changing. Right back in, let's say, early May, middle of May, when there was talks of it coming back, and then there was outrage of everyone saying, no, it can't. It wasn't coming back in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It was coming back literally a whole month down the line, maybe even a bit more, with a whole ever changing of situations. You've seen here in the UK that they're starting to ease lockdown here and there as well. Yes, of course, still people are abusing that and being stupid with it, but in terms of being sensible with it, from Monday we're allowed to be in private gardens or private outdoor spaces with groups up to 6 people from a household. So it is changing. Kids are back to school on Monday, certain age groups. So things are starting to kick on. Small businesses or non-essential retail or non-essential shops will start opening again 1st of June. So we're starting to see things come back to some form of, again, the N-word normality. So I think football should be part of that. Me personally, I think it's going to be one of the safest places to be. You know, it was 95.5%, I think it was, of tests came back negative from the 3 rounds of testing with the Premier League, which I think that played a big part in probably making a lot of players who had their concerns probably a bit more reassured. Certainly the clubs or club doctors. The fact that there was so little tests coming back positive. I think it was 12. I think out of all of those tests that were positive. I've seen a couple players come back as well. You know, Callum Hudson-Odoi at Chelsea. He obviously tested positive and then ended up, he's passed it and he's back. He's in another situation which we won't talk about, but in terms of the coronavirus, he's passed it. I saw Maps at Watford, fair play to him. He didn't even know how he got it, but he was fine. He said his family's fine, everyone's cool, and he's back in training. I saw videos of him. There's obviously high-profile players like N'Golo Kante, who obviously had reserves about coming back. Haven't really seen anything in the media too much about him saying he wanted to come back now. I think Ben Chilwell, Danny Rose, came out staunchly against it. Glenn Murray at Brighton came out against it. So it'll be interesting to see how these players take to this news. It'll be interesting to see what players are missing come the first match of the first round of matches. I mean, we could probably guess if they haven't been training for the next few weeks, but it'll be interesting to see what players are or aren't there, or if players kind of don't do it. Like I said, I spoke to someone in football who knows a lot of football players, current players, and he said, but again, this was about 3 weeks ago, he said, Flex, a lot of the players don't want to come back. I'm speaking to a lot of guys who they're not feeling it, they're not on it. So it'll be interesting to see if there are absentees. There hasn't been notable, when the media reports, look, I'm not an insider for every single club, so I only know what the mainstream media tells us. Like you guys, I don't have eagle eyes, so we can't obviously always get into to see who's training and who's not training all the time. But I haven't seen too many absentees from a lot of training. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I know Glenn Murray was kind of saying he didn't want it to come back and stuff, but I haven't seen anything from Brighton or anything reported that Brighton that he's missed training because he didn't want to come back. Obviously, I saw that Troy Deeney said that he wants to come back now. He's fine to go back to training because he's got the reassurances that he was searching for, that's what it's about. It's about individual cases. It's about what happens in your criteria for coming back. Do you know what I'm saying? Your individual situation at home with your family and your kids. He's now got the reassurance that he feels he needed, not somebody else, not the club telling him this, what he needs, and I respect that. So he's coming back to training as well, which is good. Look, at the end of the day, we want as many players to come back as safely as possible. We want them all to come back if it's safe to do so. Another thing I want to talk about is the games coming up, man, because look, there's some big games coming up. You've got Arsenal against Tottenham, big North London derby. You've got Liverpool against Everton. I think that's going to be one of the first games of the weekend. And that's going to be free. I like what Sky are doing. I think there's at least 25 matches free to air, but all of the games will be on TV, which is fantastic. We need that to happen. Obviously, it'll be behind closed doors. Now, this whole behind closed doors thing, sorry, not behind closed doors thing, neutral venues. There's a stat in the Bundesliga, I don't know if you've seen it. I think there's only been 5 home wins out of 27 games. 5 home, I think, let me check that. Yeah, 5, there's been 5 home wins out of the 27 games that have come back in the Bundesliga, which is like a 25% reduction in the home advantage, which would suggest that without the fans, obviously the home advantage is wiped away. Yeah, you can talk about the familiarity of the changing rooms and all of that, but to professional footballers really at this level, I don't really think that makes too much of a difference. So I think a lot of teams who are saying we want to play at our stadiums, Man United could be one of them, who are adamant that they want to play at Old Trafford. But for me, I don't really see the biggie about that. I don't see the biggie about that. I mean, we can clearly see if anything, your home advantage is gone, even if you do play at home. So neutral means neutral. There's no fans for either team. So I don't really see that as a big issue. I think even some of the teams who really rely on their home support a lot to carry them over the line. You look at some of the teams with big atmospheres. A lot of teams that have a 12th man. I think back to teams like Norwich. It's loud there. Teams like Sheffield United. Obviously Liverpool's always loud. You might have Watford. Look how they beat Liverpool. That wasn't obviously just because of the fans, but it might not have happened at Anfield at that point. You don't know. So I get it. Home fans is obviously a massive, massive part of football. Absolutely. That's why there's home advantage. But I think in this situation, if everyone's playing in a neutral ground, and as you can see from the Bundesliga, they're having less home wins straight away, which yes, could be down to players' fatigue and getting back to it. But I think a lot of that will be the fact that the smaller clubs, if you say go into a bigger club, you ain't got the pressure. If I don't know, if Aston Villa or if Bournemouth or whatever have to go and play Manchester City at the empty Etihad, it's going to be different to playing Manchester City packed full of 50,000. Well, Bethlehem's never packed, but however many thousand City fans in the Etihad. Do you know what I'm saying? Arsenal got to play Tottenham in the first North London derby in the new stadium that Tottenham have, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Would it have been different if Arsenal had to step out with 60,000 screaming Tottenham fans in the first North London derby at the new stadium? Of course it would have. Every throw-in, every free kick, every tackle that happens, every missed opportunity, every goal. Do you know what I'm saying? Even goals, it changes the atmosphere of the games. The fans play a massive, massive factor. So, but Arsenal ain't going to moan about that at the end of the day, or maybe Tottenham might not moan about that. I just think with how mad it is right now and how different we have to come back to, I think neutral grounds isn't really an issue. I don't really see it as that. And obviously the bigger problem was that the Premier League are obviously worried that you're going to get fans gathering or congregating outside stadiums more so. You know, if you have it at every single home game, if you use every single team's home stadium, because the more stadium you use, the more chance you spread around the country, obviously, which gives more fans the opportunity to think about gathering up there. Do you know what I'm saying? If you've got games right down from Bournemouth, the furthest down there, / Norwich, all the way up to Newcastle, scattered around the country, I guarantee you're going to get people who are going to go, oh, fancy it, let me just go, man. I'll just stand outside, might see the players walking in or something. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of clubs have kind of guaranteed that won't happen. I don't know how they can guarantee that, to be honest. Yes, I think that will use more resources in terms of police or security and stuff like that to make sure that people don't go to it. And the same people talking about we need to minimise risk and minimise that are maybe some of the same people who are asking for home advantage or playing in the stadiums when we they didn't want football to come back because the paramedics or the police might need to be there to make it safe. But how much police you're going to need if you use more stadiums up and down the country when all these games are going on at the same time? I think that's a bad use of the resources, especially when we're trying to get back to stability in society, i.e. with the police, the emergency services. You don't want a bunch of drunk fans just, getting drunk outside Old Trafford, having a great time, whatever, something happens, someone does something silly, then the emergency services time is going to get taken up when that game could have just been in one of 4 neutral venues or however many neutral venues, and they all just station there. That's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I'm talking crap. Let me know if you think, why can't we just play at the home games? It makes no difference at all. That's what it's all about. It's all about opinion. So, yeah, and there's some big games to come up, man, especially for Man United. We've got Tottenham was our next game before the pandemic hit, and I'm telling you, we were sure to beat them. I think every Tottenham fan will tell you that. They were on their arse. They were on their knees, mate. They had nobody. Now all their players are back, but guess what? So are ours. It's going to be very interesting these next few weeks in terms of who comes back in what shape. I saw some pictures of Harry Kane and Kevin De Bruyne. I don't think the camera done them justice. They looked a little bit out of shape, but I think that's more so the camera, looking not doing them justice. I saw a video of Harry Kane shooting practice and he looked all right to me. Do you know what I'm saying? But Tottenham got all their players back, but so do we. Man United, how do we attack it? What midfield are we going to play? We got Pogba back. We didn't think we'd see Rashford again this season, and now we obviously will. He's obviously back to full fitness. So it's going to be really interesting to see where we go from here. There's 9 games left, man, and now it's starting to kick in that there's a lot to play for. I think some of the teams that are fighting for their lives for relegation, when they maybe would have hoped that the season would have got null and voided, or hoped that there would have been some solution that sort of guaranteed their safety. Now their mindset's going to start to change as fans because, look, it's 3 weeks away, so a lot can change. As long as it's safe to do so in 3 weeks, the games are coming back. And you've got to win your games to stay up. Us, Wolves, Sheffield United, we're all chasing a spot in the Champions League, in a top 4, and Chelsea obviously with the 3-point advantage over us. It's up to us now. The emphasis is starting to shift. We've got to start winning games. You've got to go on a run. And Liverpool are probably going to get what they deserve, which is the Premier League. I think their fans can be rest assured they're going to get that as well in different circumstances. They only have to win the next. Well, if they win the next 2, I think they've got it. So it's going to be interesting, very, very interesting, and that competitive edge as fans will come back. I think a lot of the thing about the Bundesliga, I'm not going to profess to be a Bundesliga expert or always watch the Bundesliga. I'm like a lot of you fans who, just because there was some football back, it was just great to watch. So if I'm watching Hoffenheim against Dusseldorf, I don't really care. I don't really know all the players. If I'm watching flipping Hertha Berlin against flipping, Cologne, I'm not really emotionally invested in it. It's just nice to watch football. But I tell you what, when the Premier League comes back, which I know a lot of you are mainly Premier League fans, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. You're going to be emotionally attached. You're going to be more emotionally invested in it because it's your team or it's another team that their results impact your team. So I think that element of it, yes, will it be boring and it's not the same without fans. I think once you get over that and realise your team's in action and these games count, I think you just got to put it to one side. And I think a lot of people will do that. You have to. We all love football. We all love our team. And I think when it comes down to it, regardless of what we thought about it coming back, we want our teams to do well. Another thing, just to finish off, which I wanted to touch on, was it'd be interesting to see what the viewing numbers are about. I know a lot of people have been staunch against football coming back, and I sort of sent out a tweet a few weeks ago when there was that whole outrage, when it was almost like it was a flipping general election, like, oh, if you think football should come back, you're a this. If you don't think football should come back, you're a that. It was getting ridiculous. It was like whether you vote Labour or Conservative or all that bullshit. Have no time for it. At the end of the day, it's all about opinion. But what will be interesting is all of the people maybe who didn't want football to come back, will they be watching their teams? Will they be watching all of these Premier League games come thick and fast within this 6-week period where they want to finish it? I think absolutely. I don't think we're going to see viewing figures down or not as high because everyone's going to be watching it. Do you know what I'm saying? When originally man didn't want it back. So it just shows the power of football, and most importantly, it's not I told you so, but I think it shows how perception can change when new evidence is given to you or when time elapses. And I think that's where we're at with this. We always think in the moment as human beings, we think, no, it's not safe now. But I think in a month's time, which is where we are from when the initial outrage of football coming back, no way, they're not guinea pig labs and all this stuff. I think where we are now is we're at a different place. We're at a different place, I believe, personally. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at FlexUTD. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video as well. And most importantly, let me know your thoughts, man. In the last video I did, which was the GOAT Chronicles, when I was on about Drake, which I'll be doing a lot more artists, there was a whole load of comments. I love it. Interacting with you guys in the comments as well. So do the same with this. Let me know, are you looking forward to football coming back? Do you think it should come back? Is it too early? Are you glad it's coming back? What do you expect for your team? Give me some of your predictions for top 4, who you think is going to go down, because that's pretty much all there is interesting to discuss, which is relegation and top 4, because we already know who's going to win the league. I am out of here, people. I will see you guys very, very soon with another video. Peace.
I get it.